go live. I've just hit the button, so they should see us in a second or 5. Hi guys,
Hello.
welcome back.
Yes. One and all, and especially you. We missed you. It's been a long time since we've seen you, but we are thrilled that you're back with us. We always like your input, your discussions, your thoughts. You're a valued part of the team, so welcome back.
Thank you.
What's wrong with them, Stuart? Come on,
I
you're
appreciate
always
that, Samuel.
No, Stuart.
Oh yeah, they're back too, and they're important.
See,
so
that was me acting. What do you think about acting there, Stuart? Did you buy my sincerity and my appreciation?
I absolutely do.
I have to fake it all the time with you, so
obviously about it with me.
Wow, everyone has to.
Anyway, guys, welcome back.
Goodness.
And today we've got a very interesting topic, one that definitely deserves a discussion. And yeah, hopefully it's a good discussion. Hopefully, guys, you'll pitch in and help out with the discussion, lead us in different ways.
Remember things we have forgotten.
Yeah.
I mean,
even as we were getting ready for this, it was like, oh, don't forget that one episode. And we had to jump in. So I'm sure that we've forgotten something.
Yeah, I've got lots of prep pictures, but you can only go so far with being like 600 episodes. And guys, this is a holodeck themed episode, but do go back and look at the early episode released today, which is big holodeck security problems in lower decks. That is actually a different topic. We might delve into that a little bit, but it's a totally different topic. And I think you'll agree, Stuart, that we had a surprisingly deep debate that went all over the place in a good way. And so absolutely go watch that because it's really interesting, actually. I think. I know I was there, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, there are very good things to discuss with these kind of topics, and I'm sure we'll bleed over into that a little bit in this one or whatever. But so, 24 people here with 21 likes, pretty great.
And did you go watch the start of that yet?
I didn't.
Okay, you should watch that now. I want to see a reaction to what I did. Because it is.
Yeah, I knew you were going to do something.
Have a watch while I talk to our wonderful audience and tease them about.
All right, I'm gonna
liking.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's gonna watch our lower decks. But yeah, hi guys. Yeah. This is about whatever you guys want to talk about as well in the holodeck realm. Lots to discuss from TNG to Voyager, whatnot. Thanks, Jeff. Yes. Stuart's watching the bit, which he told me to do, and then I took it my own way with sound effects and everything.
Okay.
You should go watch the video.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And I'm Commander Calkins. Welcome back. Yeah.
We never do scripted, unless it's actually an episode about scripts. But that was fun. That was Like, where do you think I was going to go with that? Because you pitched me vaguely something. I just thought.
I thought it was going to be the regular LCAR setup, your box and my box just be a holodeck grid, and then it was going to like come into my box. But I like the full screen idea. That's cool.
But now we'll swap, and I'll start sharing, and you talk to the chat yourself. Bye bye.
Yes. All right, guys. This is not a holodeck program. This is not a simulation. So if you can help us out, please do so. Super chats are a great way to support the channel and get your comment or comment read, question answered, whatever. It's a good way for you to join the conversation. So if you can, please do so. We haven't done any super chats yet this live, which is great. But if you can, please do so. 30 people watching, 23 likes. Another great way to help out is just hit that like button, honestly. And share the video around and just watch and enjoy the content that we create for you guys. So one of the best ways to join or to help us out is to join the channel at the rank of commander, captain, or admiral. There's a join button down there beside the subscribe button. A, make sure you're subscribed, and B, if you can join, please do so. It helps us on a monthly basis, as does Patreon. Patreon is another great way to do that. It's the very same thing, and you can join us on Patreon. Just go Patreon/Trekyards in your browser and help us there as well. Plus, if you want to send PayPal, which you can do also, you can send the PayPal to trekyards@hotmail.com. All the information for that is in the links in the description of every video. And if you do send one during the live, just let us know in the chat. Let the moderators be aware that you've asked the PayPal email that gets sent to us. So there's lots of great ways to support us and the channel. And hopefully, I'm not cutting out here during this because it looks like I might be freezing. So hopefully you guys heard all that. And by all means, check out the Teespring store and other things like that as well. Lots of great stuff in the description of every video. So if you can, please do. And don't forget to head on over to Captain Foley's personal channel and check that out as well. Subscribe to that because there's new content coming there very soon. So definitely worth it. So yeah, this will be an interesting discussion. People are kind of divided on this as to whether it was too much or whether it was just what was needed or whatever. I think everybody's different in this kind of regard. So this will be a very interesting discussion, and hopefully it stays civil. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this as well, because there's lots to talk about and lots to kind of break down with this topic. So by all means, have your voice heard and super chat if you can. And looks like Samuel's back now.
There you go. Okay. Hi, Stuart. There we go.
Hi.
Yeah, and it's funny, we did look at Holodecks last night, in essence, with Brahms and that whole thing. You know, Leah definitely thought he took the holodeck too far. You know, she was picturing really debauched things. Luckily, we didn't, you know, as our heroes weren't given that sort of, how many times has the holodeck been taken too far, potentially? Well, potentially a few times. We've got a few of those things, but in this last episode of Holodecks, we get this odd situation where it's a movie within a TV show, within a animated, within a Rick and Morty parody, not really. And it's played out much like a cinematic piece. And the baseline is that Mariner is there to punish her mother. I guess that's the simple way of saying it. Without adding sort of extra context of how. Would you agree with that? The simple...
I don't think punishing her mother is quite the goal there.
Then what's her goal in the situation?
To satisfy her urge to take things out on her mother that she can't do in the real world.
Well, isn't that punished, though, just with violence?
It's not punishing her mother, though. Her mother doesn't feel any ill effects from this. So I don't think punishing her mother is quite the right way to say it. But I see what you're saying.
Why would she go after her mother's hologram and not some random person? I mean, if you're not
because she's got feelings about her mother that she can't take care of in the real world, so she's taking it out in a holodeck program.
Yeah, so she's punishing her mum just as a hologram. Otherwise, it could be anybody. Sure. The psychology of it being specifically her mum. I mean, you get a sense that she's always after Freeman, so it's very focused.
But it's more for her own inner turmoil than to punish her mother. Because if she was going to punish her mother, she'd actually have her mother in the holodeck and maybe actually do this for real.
But I'm trying to think, like, go above the literal of what she's doing. What she thinks she's just playing a game. I guess obviously she realizes at the end it's cathartic, but she's not thinking I'm going to murder everyone I know for fun. Like that, I don't think that's mentally her thought, because that's even too dark for anybody. So she's going in thinking I'm playing a game. I've got a cool blaster. I want to defeat my mum, and then she kind of gets into it a bit too much. Is that fair to say? Or do you think she goes in knowing she's going to hurt people? Like, it's very much, she has a bloodlust. I guess the better way of saying it. A bloodlust to satisfy.
I wouldn't say bloodlust at all, actually. I would say she's upset with her mom because her mom she punished her for something that she thought she would be rewarded for.
Yeah.
So she's a little bit got some bent up frustration there, and I think she went in because when she found out that the programs respond exactly like the real people would, she was like, "Oh!" And then she made it this movie. I don't think she expected to go off the rails and like start murdering everybody. She got into the character and into the narrative, and then went after her mom. So, I mean, I think the mom was the main goal all along, but the rest was just kind of to make it more interesting and maybe even fool herself thinking that it wasn't just about her mom.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
So I was trying to work out intent. If the intent was to go in and be violent, that changes who she is as a character. But if the intent was to play a game, but then it devolves into something, then it does change. You know, you often don't know what you're going to do in a situation until you get there. I'm just trying to create a baseline of what you think she was thinking, etc. Which I think you just did.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it started with relatively mediocre intent, as in, see what happens, sort of thing.
And Jeff says it's like imagining your enemy's face on a punching bag. Yes, somewhat, but I can see why Samuel thinks they went too far with, oh, look, here's my friends that I work with. I'm going to just murder them in cold blood or blow them up. It's a little bit different than beating somebody up, first of all, and let alone one of your enemies.
See,
or a faceless goon or an alien, just a bad guy in a video game. See, it's a little bit more personal.
The punching bag equivalency would only work if you've cloned the person who you want to kill. The punching bag is now a real person who bleeds, who yells, who screams, but it's not really them, and so you get to physically feel everything you're doing. A punching bag with a face on is nothing. It's metaphorical. Someone in front of you that screams with pain.
But it's a hologram.
It is.
That's the argument here, where it's not real. It's not the actual person. So.
But why give them those feelings? I mean, that's the reason she wanted to fight her in the first place, because she'll react like her mum would. Because she could obviously, any day of the week, hologram mum, punch, but it's not satisfying. She wants the satisfaction of hurting her mum and her react in a realistic way.
It was more for the conversation that would be had during the fight, to be honest, for her to actually say to her mom, you've hurt me, you've been hard on me. What's the deal? And it didn't work anyway, because she's like, I don't even know you, lady.
Yeah.
So it didn't even work anyway. But yeah.
Yeah, but that's where the rest of the crew come in. Having to mow down your entire crew network to get to her is not great. And then Phil mentioned Barclay. That's a good. We want to tangent around a bit, because this is quite a. So that this is a show of extreme violence. We'll get into that again in a minute. But if we cut to Barclay, which you can set the scene on, what they're referring to.
Oh well, in the nth degree, I believe.
No, the one before that, Hollow Pursuits.
Hollow Pursuits, yes.
I just found the stuff, so
that's the reason I knew that. He's recreated the crew on the holodeck, albeit in fantasy situations more often than not. We never see an actual modern day on the Enterprise kind of program, except for when he says goodbye to them at the end. But he's recreated the crew in positions that are diminutive to them, so that he feels bigger about himself. Even reducing the stature of like Riker to somebody shorter, things like that. So and then the romantic liaisons with the female crew. So yeah, and one could say that he maybe kills them. I mean, they always kept it PG for Star Trek. But I mean, they are carrying swords. There is dueling happening. So does he actually kill them and go to work and be like, oh, okay. Don't know. It's never really explored, but the possibility is there anyway.
I'm sorry, I missed a couple of pictures because I tangented away from them for a second, so I missed. That's why I did do Beowulf. We didn't get Beowulf. Yeah, exactly. It's both a bit of violence and a bit of sex is implied, and but obviously, yeah, like I said, it's super PG. But it's certainly the fact that crew are super disapproving shows that there are lines you're not meant to go, and Barclay, George even says in the episode, like, mate, you can't do this. You can't recreate people that it's not okay. And so just the pure doing it is not okay, let alone having sex with them, fighting them, or murdering them. So even doing it is not great. Yeah. Obviously, it's the context of a training simulation, which we see in TNG later, is different to this. Although Barclay is a swashbuckler. Swashbucklers don't tend to graphically murder people, and even if he stabs through him and kills him, it's so like it's that sort of as PG as it gets, and we see him come back, even if he does, and the way he plays, I think he even says, like, are you going to put down your sword, Picard, because he wants to beat him in the combat, but with the chivalry of not. So I doubt he ever kills anybody. He's not that. Barclay is not that sort of man. But he is the sort of womanizer, I guess. As confusing as that is, in his own way.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think it's just more to have the power over the people that have power over him in the real world, and to
power
get them
fantasy.
to drop their sword as opposed to have to fight. Yeah.
So it is.
Shannon Nash
innocent,
though throws in
in as close as it can be.
Well, except for the sex,
which is also implied.
Shannon Nash throws in $20, which is a great super chat. So thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
She used near-perfect simulations of real people to torture and murder them, including her mother. Holograms aside, these were realistic representations of living people. It was disturbing, and Mariner needs serious help. Yes.
That's a very well summed piece.
Yep. Even to the point of let's go torture the cat doctor. Her name's Tiana. She has a name.
No, she's called
really
Cat
torture her. Yeah. Again, but that line actually shows some disassociation on Mariner's part. Like, I don't want to say her name. I don't want to say her name. I want to go torture the doctor.
Yes.
Some serious help. Everybody has different forms and levels of therapy that are needed and or required. A lot of times it's as simple as writing down on a piece of paper everything you want to say to somebody and then ripping that piece of paper up or burning it so that they never see it. You've already put it out there. There's many different kinds of therapy, and I think Holodecks would definitely be used for that.
Oh god, yeah.
The fact that Mariner would never, I don't think ever consider doing this in the real world.
Well, she'd consider it, she just wouldn't do it.
Well, okay, there you go. I guess.
It's clearly in her mindset, but we should never really do it. Or some people would never, like Boimler would never think of murdering them,
Yeah.
And I certainly agree. Like someone mentioned punching bag. Yeah, I mean, some people as a way of therapy is to punch an object and actually, bruise their hands, and that's therapy because they have aggression. They have to do it out, and it's a massively broad spectrum. And we're not saying this isn't. It does. This is still a. It's not a crime. It's not something which is going to get her in trouble. It's just the extra little nuances of her enjoying it. It's the extra nuances that take it a little step beyond. There's another example of Holodecks holography, which also goes one step potentially too far. But Matthew DeFrias does say, so if I made a fictional character, it'd be okay. I could make myself Batman and then beat the crap out of the Joker and it'd be fine. Your thoughts?
Yes, it would be fine because it's not a real person. It's an actual character. It's just, and everybody's brought up the point of video games, how you can be in a bad mood and you go play a video game, you kill some people, you take out some frustration, but they're faceless. They're the bad guy. They're the aliens of the week. You always got to think. Yeah, and if you ever sit down and stop and think about even war. You're killing other people, yes, but they're just the enemy. Yep. But if you actually sit down and think about it, they all have mothers. They all have families. And once you start doing that, it gets very much like, ugh.
So most people can't be soldiers because it's horrifying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I would say yes, if I recreated a Batman comic on the holodeck and I was Batman and I could literally beat the crap out of Joker, no problem. Because Batman doesn't kill anybody.
Well, except in Batman Dark Knight and Batman versus Superman. Except the times he does murder people, but not explicitly.
Well, it's his main motivation not to generally. So,
but if a car happens to run into the person and squish them, I mean that's the car murdering them, not me.
Yeah.
Fine line.
So yeah, I mean that's a line that if I had a holodeck, I would be going in and playing that hero that is doing the things that hero would do.
Well, that's also the context. You're fighting bad guys as well. Mariner is a bad guy fighting good guys.
Yeah. That's the other thing. Like a lot of actors say, to play a villain is a very liberating thing to do because you're being somebody you can't be in real life. You get to turn on that villainous nature that I think every person has, but it's a free space to do it because you're acting. You're not actually doing these bad things. You're not hurting people. Yep. And it is human nature to have that in us, all of us, just to a certain degree.
Still animals that have, fight over
Yeah.
territory, fight over people. I mean, it's just basic.
Yeah. And that one trigger that might push us over the edge. I mean, so we all have that capability, and I don't know where I was going with this, but
yeah, I mean, I guess the difference. So let's take the example about Batman. It's a good example. So you've got now the Joker. If it was so, let's say computer generate a new Joker. This is great. Computer generate me Batman. This is great. Now, you as you Stuart, you're down the situation. The difference is, first of all, if you beat up Joker, would you, rather than just fists and he knock them out in most TV shows, movies, he's just knocked out, done, or would you put razor blades on them? As you punch him, his face gets stabbed away, and now his skin gets destroyed. And then once he's down, you then stab blood into him, and the blood splashes on his face. You feel it; it's warm. You hear him scream. You pull out his heart; it's beating. You eat it. Like the excessiveness. Would you be interested in beating him to absolute mutilation as part of the fun simulation of beating Joker?
My first reaction would be no.
Okay.
However, I have been mad enough and seen videos where certain things are happening where I'd be like, why would you even stop there? I would continue kicking them in the ribs, kick them in the jaw. Like, I would be mad to the point where I'm not sure where I'd stop. That's easy to say when you're outside of it, third person looking in at a video going, why did you stop there? I would have gone further. But when you're in it, your adrenaline's kicked in, you're realizing you're actually hurting somebody. It's a different situation. So it's really a tough call. It would have to be something really personal for me to kind of get that violent. But I mean, like I said, everybody has their limits. Everybody has that thing that might push them over the edge and make them go a little bit more excessive. So it's really hard to say. But as for the Joker, no, probably not. I would probably be just use the Batman fists.
And let's go one step further. Now you're going to say, computer, give the Joker Thomas's face. And now you have to physically assault your son. His face, his mannerisms, playing the Joker. How far will you go then?
Well, he's my son, so I wouldn't do that. As for like,
but what if you wanted to play? What if he was like, "Oh no, Dad, fight me as Joker. It's great," but he's a hologram because he couldn't play that day. How far would you beat up your own son as Joker? Because he's not really your son. He's actually the Joker, but he looks and sounds and somewhat acts like your son. You know him.
Well, that's a different scenario.
It is.
But
it is.
So you say my son, like if it was a friend of mine, I'd be like, yeah, buddy, we're going to have some fun. Let's see how far you can go. But yeah, I wouldn't, I couldn't like kill anybody as far as that goes, somebody that I know.
So you're saying you wouldn't even put yourself in that situation?
No, I mean, why would you?
Why would you? Yeah. And so, the Mariner, if this was, see, I would have no problem in this episode if it was just generic crew. Wouldn't care. Unfortunately, if she doesn't know them, then there's no emotional attachment. They're just people.
Yeah,
it's because they're her friends, and I wouldn't even mind.
Well, it'd be funny if they were if they were like all like NPCs. You saw two characters in the same hallway with the same face.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah,
because then it would be a video
hilarious.
Game. Yeah, and even if it was just the mum she wants to hurt, then it's like, okay, there's a real rationale here. I get that she has to go through the hordes of nobodies to get to somebody. That I can buy. But when she's giggling and smiling at hurting people she knows, again, they're not really people, but does she have that many grudges?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it started out as just a fun little experiment that she just got carried away. She got carried up in the villainous role and just took it a little too far. And then she got to the goal of her mother, and she didn't even get the satisfaction of dealing with that because she had to deal with herself, which really is the toughest thing of all in therapy, is dealing with your own inner demons. And the fact that she actually faced a version of herself that was very true to who she was the cathartic thing that she needed to do. Not her mom.
No, wasn't about
herself.
Herself.
And she learned that because the Mariner from the program jumped in, which I loved. I thought that was a great way to handle it. It turns out that's what she actually needed, and she didn't know that until she got in that situation.
Now, obviously, the great point. I was reading the chat. Sorry. Obviously, we're here to talk to you guys, and some of you don't watch all of our content. We don't expect you to. So somebody's brought up 2 points that we have explicitly addressed,
Okay.
as a kind of a gotcha that we don't know what we're saying, in the sense of like, oh, you didn't think about us. But Matthew says, thanks for talking about it for as long as we did. You're welcome. You super chat, we talk, or even don't super chat, we do. Anyway, Blake Cooper. Riker vaporizes a real woman in the Vengeance Factor, if you recall the non-aging lady right at the end. Yep. And Picard uses a holodeck to kill Ensign Lynch in First Contact, but Mariner is the bad guy who shoots nobody. Thoughts?
But Mariner's the bad guy because what?
But she doesn't hurt anybody. Like, why is she the bad guy, even though she doesn't hurt anybody, and those people have hurt people?
Well, we even talked at the time when we reviewed that episode with Riker that was a little excessive. But considering this person's history and the fact that their single-mindedness over the course of all these years, what else could you do in the situation? I mean, you throw in the brig, she'll like live for how long?
Yeah.
And perhaps escape and still do the same thing. So yeah, it's a tough question. As for killing Ensign Lynch, I still don't agree with that. I think that's a Picard thing that he definitely should have done. He's better off dead than being a Borg and maybe having the opportunity to come back at some point, because I did. Although the Borgification in First Contact is a little more excessive and extreme than it was in his case.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, we saw what happened to him. It was instant. Oh, you're fine. It's like, nope, they were.
Yeah, that's tough. And yeah, I'm on the side that personally I don't think that Mariner really overstepped any kind of lines, because she knew it was all fantasy. But then you put her friends and her crewmates. It's kind of like, I can see why people would be a little bit.
It's not even that it's how much glee she had. She was enjoying it too much. You know.
I think she was enjoying it too much because she knew it wasn't real.
But I'm gonna jump on the.
Like I can't see her going on an enemy ship and killing actual people and being like, you know, she'd be like doing her job focused and
well, no,
it would be a different Mariner in that regard.
Although she did have fun punching everyone on the planet with the crystals. She was like laughing at punching in the face. So, but it's not killing. So reaction to we did both call out Vengeance Factor was too excessive.
Yes,
he should have not disintegrated her. So that, and also it's not the holodeck, and he didn't know her. I mean, he sort of kissed her. So it's not the same situation, but we also were against that. And killing Lynch, also he's not holodeck simulation, so that's also not the same situation. That is Picard killing him, but also Picard was going through massive, like, you know, Picard was way more mentally unstable than Mariner is here. You know, and
he had to save not only his crew but the Earth.
And the future
of Starfleet.
Yeah. And he obviously didn't know Lynch very well. I mean, they've got a big crew. Not that it makes it too much, but, you know, different situation. Probably shouldn't have killed them, but I mean, that is very much a situation of kill or be killed. This is not. So, again, not applicable, but it was too graphic, potentially. But it would have been...
I think it was too much, but at the end she realized that, and... Well, that's the good thing. I think that...
Well, Tendi realised it was too much. When did Mariner realise it was too much?
Sorry, what?
Well, Tendi realised it was too much because she walked away. When did Mariner realise it was too much?
I think after her mom beamed away and she had to start fighting herself and she had started having the conversation, I think she started to realize that... And then after the ship blew up and she's like, oh, therapy works, guys. I think she worked out a lot of things that she wouldn't be doing that again anytime soon, if you know what I mean. But that's kind of the vibe that I get. Yeah,
but she didn't. Like, at least we didn't get a scene. Like, again, it's all more about the filmmakers, how far they took it. I mean, at the end of the day, they created Mariner, etc. They could have made it, you know. So I'm saying is like move it one latch, two different. If they'd really want to make it very kind of like dark, what you'd have is a scene, because she specifically shoots the frowny Vulcan. If we'd seen her in a corridor, she was like, hey man, pew! He's like, that would have been like, oh, okay. What was that? So luckily we didn't get any sort of follow-up, because you sort of move on, you know, you leave it in the holodeck and you move on, right? If you bring it at all to the real world, it's different.
BJ Vincent throws in $5, so thank you very much, BJ. Sadly, Mariner does have some real world issues to work out. I mean, I know it was fake, but trying to kill your mother in the holodeck is a bit sadistic. Yeah, I would say so.
I guess also, why couldn't she just stun everybody? Like, shooting them is not a problem. Stun would be as effective in the situation, and it would have had no problems at all. Like, even blowing up the guy, one death with a, like, oh, didn't know that was going to explode. Okay, there we go. Well, why disintegrate them all? Like we saw in Enterprise, like you scream, like it's horrifying, like in TNG, like it hurts, it really hurts. I mean, it's quick, but it hurts. So why not stun them? Like that was an active choice to make it as excessive as possible. Literally the highest setting you can go, you know?
Yeah. Dave Stelzer, $2. Not like this was worse than Barclay's holodeck programs. Well, Barclay wasn't going around massacring his crew and his friends. His superiors that he had problems with, yes, he had them in the holodeck, and like I said, even made them diminutive to the point where even Riker was shorter than he should have been. It was just to, have that sense of being able to stand up for himself. We don't know how far it went. Like we discussed earlier when we started this, we don't know if he actually killed them in sword fights or whatever with a quick thrust in or whatever. But it's hard to say exactly what he did.
And also, implied sexual conduct with holographic versions of your crew is different to literal blowing them up and laughing when you hold the guy's ear. Like we couldn't at the time. If we caught him in the middle of it with Troy and she walks in, I think we would think it was too excessive. It's how you show it and what you show. We can still be. He may not have, even if the writers meant so. Whereas in the other one, it's explicit. But yes, that was also... But also remember the episode, they did judge him. He was shown to be wrong. This was an inappropriate, wrong thing to do. There was no ambiguity here. He was wrong, out of line, and he got reprimanded. So,
And Matt Jono, too, makes a good point. In video games, I rarely feel bad about killing NPCs, but in real life, I often feel worried about killing a spider.
I thought he was going to say, I don't make a joke about killing real people. I was waiting for that joke of, in real life, I don't care. I kill people.
I'm kind of the same way. I find I have more empathy for animals, like when animals are in pain or being. I can't imagine why anybody would abuse an animal. You can't explain to an animal what's happening. You can't.
Holodeck.
Yeah, you can't explain to an animal what's happening, or it's going to be better, or that you'll take care of them. It's not like a human where you can explain these things and have them feel better. I usually have more empathy for animals than I do for people in certain situations, which make me a bad person. I don't know, but
got a soft spot.
I very much do, and a lot of the things bother me. So, but yeah, I see what you mean. Yet in a video game, I'll be like hacking and slashing or shooting or whatever, and it's sometimes I do it as therapy because I'm having a bad day, and just to be able to just go out and just massacre some NPCs just makes you feel so much better.
Yeah, but I mean, we're nowhere near the same point of a holodeck. Even with VR, you don't sense them, you don't smell them, you don't, you hear them, but most games don't add in a really bad scream. And then even if you shoot, normally even in VR games, right, you can slash on with a sword. You might get a little bit of blood. They don't do anything. They fall to the ground. It's a knock character. It's so. Like it's a screen. There's nothing else there. It's
disassociative.
Massively so.
Worry about it.
And same with gunplay. Like even the most gruesome. Like I remember in Far Cry 1, they were like, "Oh my god, you can shoot multiple bullet holes," and it's just like it takes a second. When you first install it back in 2004, it's like shit. I can actually bullet hole him in the head, and I'm seeing a bullet hole. That's a bit bit weird. And in Dead Space, the first Dead Space, I don't know if you played Dead Space, but you can literally chop off people's arms. I mean, they're aliens, but I mean, it's graphic, and it took a second. Like, wow, this is extreme. It's that. So say it's the same in video game, it isn't, because you're not really physically there. As soon as you're physically there, I'll give you an example of a real life thing, and obviously different for America because you guys have guns, so it's not the same thing. But in most countries, you don't have guns, so pull from the rest of the world here. Video game, obviously, held guns in the concept of the shot. I've been a savior of the universe, great. Airsofting, I've been airsofting when I've held an airsoft gun and I've shot people, and I'll get into that later. Someone brought up in a previous video. That's whatever. I was in a train station one day, and I saw two police walking through. It was near one of the terror attacks with assault rifles, and I've never been that close to a fully armed man before. And suddenly my heart's going, because this is a real gun. That man could kill me in real life. No, could kill everyone here. There's nothing to stop him. This is not something you ever deal with in real life. And he was right there. And so suddenly, I've held guns for 10 years. That guy's a real bullet in that gun. It's different. and I wasn't even doing anything, but I felt tense and uncomfortable because there's a real death machine there.
Mm.
You know, so until you're actually in a situation where it feels and is real, it's not the same.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of funny because not funny that you were feeling that, obviously.
Yeah.
I was going to say about Mariner, like I said, it started out being a program where she could have turned into a movie essentially and confront her mother, and then during the course of it, she when she first goes aboard the ship, accidentally kills two people. I don't know if she was aware of that.
I don't think she was.
And then kind of killed one or two in the hallway, and just it kind of escalated, and she didn't realize that that's maybe what she needed to just kind of you know, feel better. As much as bad as that sounds, I don't think she went in thinking she was going to be doing that necessarily. It could have been a ship to ship battle with her mom if that had gone a different way, you know. So
well, I mean,
I don't know.
It brings into the scene where, you know, the part of the way the episode tells us it's wrong is that Tendi does say,
yes,
you know, because obviously
this isn't you, Mariner, this is too far.
Yeah, I mean, she actually walks away because it's, you know, this is messed up. The show tells us this, and only after she goes extra far, let's torture the cat doctor. Nothing to do with the mum, nothing to do with the ship. Let's go, like, why would you do that? That doesn't, you know what I mean? That is even more excessive. Like, we won't see it, but the show tells us this is wrong. This is too far even for them. Just like in TNG, Barclay does too far for them. There are levels of appropriateness, and, you know, killing your friends for funsies, okay, fine, but then going the extra bit of glee because she's laughing about torturing, and obviously, you know, this is her superior officer that she's been talking to for months, working for, and let's go. I definitely want to hurt my chief medical officer with a scalpel and rip out her. It's like, no, I don't need to do that. Like, so the episode does bring us into this is wrong, at least the way she's doing it. You know.
Yeah, she didn't get into specifics of how she was going to torture. She goes, but torture, like really torture her. It's like, whoa, calm down there.
Yeah, so I do appreciate that. That's needed, you know.
Yeah.
And as I said in our review, the end, the catharsis is like there's a reason for it, and you get why. It was just odd they would go that one step. Like if it was just stun, you know, just stun, that one change. Don't disintegrate them. Why? Then you are tight. Then it is not hurting a fly really. Even punching them, because punching them is a very, you know, people punch other in MMA, in boxing. There's a level of, well, okay, but there's a sport in punching people. Disintegrate people is called murder, you know, and so you're still adding that little bit of yourself there.
Well, David Bessick throws in $10. So thank you very much, David. I can understand she has issues, but this is no different than printing out pics of people I don't like and shooting them at the gun range. If I did that, how do you think society and police will respond? Yeah, the police would probably take that as pretty serious. So yeah, it's a tough call. I mean,
those targets
Holodeck
don't scream, say please don't. They don't
exactly. Yeah,
I mean, it's not the same. They're
also
objects.
not shooting back at you like they were in that scenario as well.
Yeah, like they're inanimate objects, David. They're not looking, sounding, and remember the whole point is they act exactly like the crew. Because I could also imagine if she's like, computer, make the Trios crew, and they're all just like you said, like holding a rifle like this, dum dum, like a video game joke. Like they've got no personality, they're just faces. And then you can kind of like, well, they're not anybody. But they even make a point in the scene where she's fighting them. It's like, wow, the accent really close to his accent. It's like he's so accurate.
Yeah, they made a point of it, saying that they were so accurate. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is like, yeah. Now I could obviously, and we can get into the Voyager example, the really really good Voyager example, where this is most applicable, called worst case scenario. There we go. Where again the idea is they are so close to their real life counterparts. I need to find the picture. Hold on, there's lots of pictures. But yes,
while you're doing that, I'll read the super chat. James Saunders, $5.
Thank you.
We all know that Barclay was doing more than just sitting around a garden with Hollow Troy. Oh, absolutely.
But it was just implied heavily. That's the line.
Yes.
You need those lines. Where is it?
And it's even kind of brought up in DS9 a little bit, where Quark is commissioned to make a specific holodeck program of Major Kira, and he's trying to get scans of her, and it's brought up that scanning of officers is forbidden for that very reason. So I love that tie-in as well, because that's kind of a violation. So yeah,
Okay, so yeah, so worst case scenario. Do you remember the episode? Do you want to give us the synopsis briefly?
For what are we doing?
Worst case scenario, the Voyager one. Which is the most
Oh,
comparable.
that's an awesome one. Where they're doing the trial of Riker, and they're trying to recreate exactly what had happened from everybody's testimony.
No, that's
and
not. No, worst case scenario is the Voyager one with the holodeck and the crew. And the Marquis take over the ship.
Oh, the training program.
Yes, but I do have the other one to talk about because it's another sign of how Holodecks can go.
That's the picture that was on the screen when you asked.
The live's delayed, so that's why. Yes, that one.
Anyway, yes. Tuvok starts a training program to deal with the Maquis should the situation arise that they try to take over the ship, and it's actually based on the actual crew and the Maquis that are on Voyager. And yeah, you get to join the holodeck program and be part of the resistance to fight back against the Maquis, or vice versa. And your own self would be in there. Like there's Tom and Tom there. I love that everybody wants to try the program, and there's no idea who wrote it.
Yeah,
for the first little while, but it was interesting. I mean, I don't know what point you want me specifically.
That's fine. So one of my favorites because it's just very clever, and I think we both like what ifs, and it's sort of an alternate universe as well. So yeah, it's about how are the Maquis going to react? It's about training new recruits in case the Maquis went rogue, and so Tuvok programmed them all to be extremely similar. Now, obviously, this was a official head of security. I think we can both argue he's allowed to do this. He's head of security. Okay, fine, sure. And people go in and they try this simulation, and we actively see in the episode. I went back and I looked. But Alana does shoot Harry, and he does fall down. And she does shoot people in the corridor, doesn't think twice, and I was very careful to find exact screen caps, which I must have scrolled through. Anyway, so yeah, she does shoot her crew, which she's... And that's as close as we can get to Mariner. She's actively... Yeah. But it's explicitly stun, because so she's obviously it's a tool rather than a kill, a death knell. But they need to be like themselves to be real. And, they get to vent on that. But so it's as close as we can get. But the context is still much more like you watch it, you're not thinking, oh no. It's more just, oh, that's interesting. So the context is still important there. And then in the episode, just to go into how dangerous holodecks can be in general, reveals Seska's actually changed the program. And then, we get to see Janeway disintegrate herself with a weapon, which at the time is quite gruesome, played as quite gruesome. Mulgrews acting is like, it's like that is gruesome for the time. She kills herself. And then we also get Tuvok and Paris be attacked by the Doctor. At that point, the safeties are off, so they can actually die. And we see the Doctor actually strangle Tuvok and inject Paris with an acid. And there's also a fire that can almost burn them. So it's quite for the time, it's quite graphic for what it is. Showing holodecks, be careful, etc. And this is how far they took it. But it's still not quite the same thing. But it is still shooting your friends. But not disintegrate.
That's a really close example. So yeah. David Bessick, though, throws in $5.
Thank you.
To be clear, I am on your side with all of this, Sam. I think the best sum up for this episode is they pushed it too far. Not surprised. All feels wrong. Well, he's never been a fan of lower decks from the beginning, so
but
I can see him being on that side.
It literally is just like removing 3 lines, and it's really simple. It's just a 1/2 step, not even a full step, just 1/2 step too far. Like I wouldn't even mind the torture line if she built up slightly more. So it started at stun, like we even saw her start at stun. It's like, oh, this is fun, kill. And then like if she amped it up and then got to torture, then it's kind of like, oh, she got wrecked. Would
have been better if she said, let's go really, really, really torture her. And she sets her phaser setting, and you see like a little mind bubble where she see what's going on in her head. And she's got the phaser, and it's like a laser pointer, and the cat's like trying to get it on the ceiling. And it's like that's really torturing a cat. You know what I mean? So that'd be kind of funny. But Jeff Jacobs 251 got our 50, now on to 100. Hashtag holodeck like Spike, hashtag make Jeff pay. Yeah, we haven't even been focusing on this. We have 110 people watching, which is great. 54 likes. Guys, we can do better than that. We can get up to 100 likes easily, but at least 75. So hit that like button, guys. And if you want to get in the conversation,
Yeah.
if you have any thoughts about it, by all means, send us a super chat so we'll make sure we see it. But we are reading the chat and trying to mention a few things. So
one, I got some enthusiasm of just pushing the holodeck. Asking did they go too far. This is the one I thought, or not the same thing, but we can talk about the more broad holodeck idea here. We get another brilliant Voyager episode where the Doctor makes himself a family, but it's too vanilla and too safe. And by the end, the daughter, who's played brilliantly by the actress, dies, and he is just totally destroyed by this, and he's reacting, and it's, we as the audience feel really bad for him, and he's pushing his psychology to the limit there. And it was B'Elanna's idea to make it more random, but he's basically emotionally torturing himself on the holodeck.
Yeah.
In a program that he feels is real. Remember, he's also fake. They're fake, but he thinks that this people is real, and he's being absolutely emotionally hurt by this. Obviously, at the time, it's played specifically to be punched in the gut as far as you can go, but he thinks it was real, so it's affecting him.
Because he's the hologram, and because he doesn't have a family or won't really have a family, they go to the extreme of the daughter dying. Now, if it was a person that their daughter actually did die, it would be the exact opposite, where they'd have the holodeck program where she's alive and healthy and well, or whatever. So that one really bugs me, because they should have kept their nose out of his business, because I don't like the way that she manipulated the situation to be like, you should have a family that's more realistic, and just let him have what he wants to have on the holodeck. And the fact that never gets revisited ever also kind of bugs me, and that's something that should have been, I think, a recurring thing. Him going back in and
well, I think he scratched the itch and he moved on.
Yeah, absolutely, that's what's implied, but I think it could have been carried over a few episodes at least.
Like, for example, something as simple as an episode where the holodeck's going wrong and the daughter walks into sickbay, and he's like, you know what I mean? I have to deal with it all of a sudden. Would have been pretty. But so I'm just saying, like, emotionally, that was real. A holodeck can still be real. And these aren't even real people, but he's here a real person, but yeah.
And Hez Raz makes a good point. I almost forgot how Tuvok killed Neelix in a holodeck program. I get he was going through Pon farr, but still, didn't he choke him to death?
Yep.
Talk about being up close and personal. That's way worse than being disintegrated.
Well,
disintegrating somebody.
Disintegrating is a half second. Choking someone with your bare hands is stabbing or shooting worse. Well, stabbing's worse. So I think choking is probably worse, because it's.
But that's what I mean. It's way more extreme than what we saw in the Lower Decks episode.
But it was also played as wrong. Like, it wasn't. It was he did a wrong thing, but it's what he needed. Oh. But also, I doubt they made. I don't know, because I recall the scene as Neelix not being as realistic as he could have been. Like, he was choking, but it wasn't like as graphic as it could have been.
I think it was pretty graphic, because that's one thing about choking is it's very personal. It's face to face. You're there, and I remember him gasping for air, and so that's almost more traumatic than this episode of Lower Decks.
But as we know, Vulcans get aggressive during that time, so it was kind of like that was a medical, and it actually was like a medically recommended. Like, same with he had to have sex with the holographic wife to be okay. That's I wonder. Did the holographic wife have sex with the holographic husband as well? Yeah, how does his wife deal with him being away? We never get that addressed. And why is Tuvok's wife not addressed in Endgame? I just realized that he has a wife. What the hell?
List Jericho. To be fair, it was only Neelix. That's really mean. I really like Neelix.
Yeah.
Lancer 737 puts in $5. Holodecks are the devil. They need to get rid of them. Some kid is bound to summon Emperor Palpatine and Cthulhu, and they will get out like Moriarty did. Yeah. Turn off the safety protocols, and we need a Cthulhu capable of defeating Picard.
Yeah.
65 likes, 100 people watching. Let's get to 75 at least. 10 more people. Hit that like button if you can. We'd really appreciate it.
One other small one, and this is more just a holograms can go wrong. In an episode where there's this lady, and she invades Voyager's program, and she takes control of the holodeck, and she loves Tuvok. Another Tuvok moment, and she uses the hula people to strangle B'Elanna. That was pretty real. She was really being strangled.
I don't remember that.
That's okay. But I'm just saying, holodecks can be pretty real.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with safety stuff. Like, she's really being strangled there. That holodeck is really dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you talk about Beowulf though, because that's what you mentioned several times off stream. There's the Beowulf picture, Stuart.
Beowulf.
Yes.
Yeah, and just that's how dangerous holodecks can be, where people can actually get trapped in the holodeck program. That's kind of what I was going for with that. I thought we are just doing like. See, somebody else made an interesting comment on the post for this when I posted this earlier. That Badgie went too far. Mariner was
I have a
just
picture.
dealing with some shit, and yeah, I mean, Badgie definitely went too far. With all the little, you gotta admit, at least Mariner wasn't walking through the halls saying, "I'm gonna snap your neck, I'm gonna twist your leg off, I'm gonna stab you through the heart," whatever Badgie was saying. I mean, so
no, yeah, it's true. Well, that's the thing. Mariner escalated.
She was in her role as villain,
Yes, just enjoy it too much. Although you could also argue Badgie was being abused by his father for months, so therefore, he's also working through some stuff. But
abused.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what he says. I mean, he's getting punched and kicked by his dad. I mean,
yeah, but
you can assume that happened many times, given he did it that quickly. Like Rutherford is prone to hit his creations. I absolutely see that.
He was just programming him, and then when he wouldn't load with Tindy watching, he got a little bit like aggressive with them. But
it shows what Rutherford can
be. I can't see Rutherford doing that all the time with him. So
enough to cause a problem. But as we called out, in this holodeck scene. Did they go too far? Yeah, I mean, graphically, we saw Badgie rip a guy's head off and break a guy's arm. I mean, that is too far. That is excessive. You don't need that. But that's the thing. They're like, it's kind of like the Orville pushes everything a bit too far, like as in further than Trek went. But this was not necessary. It was an unnecessary detail of gore. I'm not a fan of gore. It has to be appropriate and add. Like, you can have the most horrible violence possible if it works in the scene, like if it adds something to the scene, because if it adds something to the scene, then it's justifiable. I remember a fight I watched recently where they broke a guy's leg and you see it literally go and you're just like, ugh! But that's a big part of the fight scene, so it added something quite special to that moment.
Viren Victus puts in $2. After the Dominion War, stunned half Starfleet not manned by hologram. What? After Dom War.
I think he's saying so many people got killed that half the ships are holograms.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another example I had here. This is I thought quite an interesting one. So in episode Voyager, a lot of Voyager, because I like Voyager. Also they do more extreme. So in an episode of Voyager, B'Elanna is attached by a parasite and it is killing her. Simple, right?
Yes.
But it's a living entity and even comes from a spaceship. So it is a sentient spacefaring race, just happens to be in our context a parasite. And part of the episode is the Doctor can't work out so complicated a creature that he has to hologrammatically recreate a Cardassian who on the surface is a doctor.
Basically Dr. Mengele, one of the Nazis.
A professional in this field, did great stuff. But one of the Bajorans on the crew says, "Sorry, he butchered people. The best way to get results is to experiment on live people, which is arguably true and non-arguably immoral. But the guy saw the ends justify the means, etc. And so you get this interesting scene where they're in the holodeck. These are both holographic characters. One more sentient than the other, although the hologram Cardassian is very sentient feeling. Like it's very well written." And they recreated the creature as a hologram. So it's a hologram with a hologram with a hologram on holodeck. And the Doctor says, well, there's two doctors here. The Cardassian says to the Doctor, open him up. And he hands him a scalpel, and it's this graphic, more, it's deliberately extra stabby. And he's like, why not use we had modern tech. We can do this in a clever way with lasers that won't hurt as much. And he's like, well, yes, you could. But I, as a Cardassian Doctor, part of learning about the creature is to feel the resistance to the blade and feel you can sense things through the object you use. And the Doctor's like, okay. And as soon as he starts stabbing into a holographic creature, it screams because it's a faithful reproduction. And the Doctor's like, we're hurting it. And Cardassian says, so what? It's a hologram. But the Doctor's still uncomfortable because he is even though none of this is real, he's not real. He's not real. He is actively hurting a creature deliberately.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's played as this is not right. So making it too real, like he could turn pain off and it would just be a non-thing, but then you wouldn't learn the information, but it has to be real.
Then it would be like a biology class in high school where you're dissecting a dead frog.
Yeah. Well, dissecting a live frog would be the better example. It's like, everyone dissect live frogs. It's like, that's too far.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you turn off the holodeck, having the thing...
Oh.
Yes.
Hi, Stuart. Back. Sorry.
I love how that was a holodeck or hologram working with a hologram on a holodeck.
Yes. It's very, it's literally 100% holographic, with holographic tools as well. But the fact that it's such a big deal, because obviously he's a hologram, so he's hurting, like he understands, he feels pain, weirdly enough. The Doctor does and can feel pain. And so he's hurting this holographic creature. And that's the difference. Now, luckily, we didn't get the people on the holodeck and Holodeck screaming, but you can go too far. And it was obviously played to be too far, where they were able to say this is not okay, but that's why we're doing it, and hence tend to saying this is not okay is them saying it's not okay. It's just a little bit too many scenes of it.
Yeah, actually, this has been a good discussion so far.
Yeah. And this is another interesting example. This is more referring to the idea of replicating the crew and then how you can use that. In the episode, I think it's Author, the Doctor recreates the crew to create his holonovel, to populate his fictional story. And the way it's played in the Doctor's brain originally is, I had to use a baseline, so I just used the crew because they were just, it doesn't matter. But as soon as our heroes walk on it and they watch a, change misrepresented Chakotay, the 7 of 9 being more of a even more sexual object, the Queen Bee, Janeway being even more sadistic, everyone being pushed to their extremes. Everyone's like, dude, you can't. They're still us. They've still got our basic personality. You've just tweaked them a bit. It's not okay. And then obviously everyone back on Earth who's watching this is like, oh, this is the Voyager crew. Holy shit. They're just holograms, but it's enough to be, well, it's them.
Defamation of character. Yeah.
Yes. What do you think about that whole situation? Also recreating them, not the same, but a similar situation.
Yeah, well, those definitely weren't created with the personal personal logs or anything. Those were just his versions of them. And but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want a version of me that somebody programmed that turned me into something else being, public access to the public that anybody can see. Oh, that's what he's like. I wouldn't be cool with that. So it's a little bit of a different situation because it is. I love how they're kind of like placeholders in the story, and then eventually it's supposed to be changed. But it's a little bit different situation, I think.
But they're still real enough. Like when the point is, Janeway stands up to Janeway, and she's not seeing not Janeway. She's seeing the Doctor's making commentary on herself. So clearly, a hologrammatical version, recreation of yourself, even if 25% different, is resonant enough to be not okay. And so, if this is not okay, how is shooting your entire crew and laughing okay?
Yeah.
This is not okay.
Yeah.
Intense, important. That's why Mariner's not bad at the start, but gets worse.
Yeah. Gets worse, and then it's kind of a redemption thing at the end.
There is.
But, I hope it carries over, which I'm sure it will.
Absolutely. Speaking of another too far, again, different but interesting as well, is in Equinox when they turn off the Doctor safety protocols, and he also becomes Dr. Mangler in a sense, and it's played as quite sadistic. He doesn't care.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget the self-hurt episode with B'Elanna, where she turns off the safety protocols. That's her idea of therapy is risking her life in the holodeck. And again, that's a little bit too much.
But you can't hurt yourself. You can't kill yourself in the holodeck, can you, Stuart?
Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. And that's like the equivalent of people cutting themselves. Oh, I don't feel anything emotionally, so I have to cut myself. It's like, it's, holodecks raise a lot of questions, unfortunately.
Well, that's why these far out examples, because again in the episode this was unambiguously wrong. Like she was doing the wrong thing because she's not mentally working correctly. But it's interesting, she
at least she was doing it in the holodeck and not in real life. That's the thing. The holodeck could be an outlet for people that and we even see it with Sauter, whatever the hell his name was, the Bajoran, the serial killer guy, in Voyager, where they're like, well, yes, you have these impulses, but can you take them out on the holodeck? Well, not really. I mean, it'll satisfy me for a short amount of time, but it's not the same as instilling fear in a person. Like, I can see the holodeck being used in good ways. For therapy, like severe therapy like that, to prevent people from hurting others. And I don't think Mariner went in expecting to be doing all that necessarily. She wanted a confrontation with her mom. I don't think it was necessarily going to end in her killing her. But
she had the thing ready to impale her.
But that was after the going into the ship and getting involved with killing everybody, and then it's like, it's the icing on top of the cake. I don't think that was necessarily the goal from the beginning. I think it was just to go and
defeat her, a la Barclay.
Yes, and make her, on her knees in front of her, kind of thing. Like, now you're going to listen to me because you never listened to me. I think that's the end result there. And it escalated and got out of hand. And then she got into the role of, I'm the villain and this is fun. Woohoo! And then,
but I'm not the bad guy, Stuart.
Right?
No, you're literally the bad guy, which is a great line. I think it's one of those things where it makes the character look worse. She redeems herself at the end, but the fact that she can go that far is not something that most Trek characters can do. And for a character that is a little bit divisive and that she is a total disrespect to the rules, like she's a blatant bad officer, even though she has the potential of being a really good officer. So it's another weird thing to give her in the lines of, but then again, she is also not a good officer. Like we've seen her also make bad mistakes and not, she's a very complicated character. Which is good, in a sense. But it's just, as I said to you previously, I don't think I would ever, on the holodeck, recreate a friend and torture him to death. I don't think I'd be capable of doing that. So that sets me apart from her. I'm just not that dark. She might, no judge per se, and that's more than the writers doing it, but I would never do that. I have a line. She doesn't. Fair enough. But I have a line there,
Yeah. And everybody's line is different as far as that goes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some people, can take a minigun into a field and shoot 4,000 rounds and feel better. That's a pretty unique, you know what I mean? That's a pretty unique line.
And Paul makes a good point, too, with the self-hurting on the holodeck. Along with that, whenever someone uses a dermal regenerator, it should be logged because what is someone doing to keep getting hurt? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially in the future. And that episode was, dark. It was really dark. And it it got darker when I've got a picture where she hurts her head on the holodeck and the ship is literally, the shuttle is being crushed. The shuttle will destroy itself and kill her. So she actually would have died if she hadn't walked in. Taking it too far, not understanding, because she got carried away and it would have hurt more.
And Devo 77X, Tora's recreation of the Maquis getting wiped out by the Dominion. The scary thing was she felt nothing when she saw it. She was hurting herself to feel something. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was tracking it up to modern day people that cut themselves, and they do that because they don't feel emotions. They need to feel something to know they're alive. And plus, with her watching it in the holodeck, she's watching her friends get murdered, but she also knows it's a holodeck. Yeah, she knows they're holograms, and it's not the real thing.
And they're also already dead because that's the point.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of complexity there, but it was a social commentary episode talking about self-hurting, and why people do that,
and why people need psychological help to be better. It's like if you could, as with anything, if you could somehow be forced to live or watch your darkest nightmare, how many times are we living it until it means nothing, until you're numb to it? That's why as I again alluded to, if Marin had started with stun, escalated, then you could argue as she got used to it, it became null to her. The fact that she started at number 11 and then somehow went to setting 12 with torture, like again there are ways of doing it much better. because yeah, you can get numb to things. I mean, when I watch scary movies, or some people still find Alien scary, with the graphic gore obviously at the time more so. But for me, I can never see gore as scary because I always see it as practical effects or digital effects. I see the filmmaking. I've managed to dissociate myself so far from it. I'm not the biggest fan of horror, but like I can enjoy Saw because I'm like, that effect of that guy's arm is really good, and that blood consistency is excellent. Completely dissociative, completely. But that's just me as a filmmaker.
I don't like watching Saw for different reasons. I can't stand seeing that kind of. I know a lot of some of it's too realistic.
Interesting. That's interesting. We're getting to new territory here. Okay.
Yeah. Some of it's too realistic. Like it's the ridiculous stuff that I'm like, oh, okay, whatever.
Okay.
Like I can watch a lot of horror movies because it's like ridiculous beyond the ridiculous. But some of the stuff in Saw is a little bit too like. Ooh.
Is that the first one or just the franchise in general? Because they got obviously more extreme as it went on.
Well, I haven't really watched any of them. I've seen parts of them. So yeah, I don't know. Never really watched.
If you haven't seen Saw 1, watch it. It's a really good film. And what I love about it is that it was made on the lowest budget possible. Every single set is in the same warehouse. And there's like, I think there's even a shot where they cut between two environments, like we're moving through space and time, but they just literally move the camera because it's like such a and just the end. The filmmaker's like, and so creative, that whole film for the budget. So I went, completely null to that. Because like I said, I see it. It's like John Wick, right? I assume you've seen the John Wick films.
I have not.
Oh, well, you should. They're great.
Yes, I've been told that, and I will.
Yeah, you could argue excessive violence, although, for you personally, is violence more excessive if there's more of it, literally, or if there's less of it, but it's more gory? Which one is more excessive to you? Do you understand the question?
Say it again.
Okay, so if there's two fight scenes, right, in two films, one is 4 minutes with every single punch, stab, kick, teeth come out, gore, bloody, they get really graphically like hurt. Another fight is 10 minutes, where there's a lot more punches, but there's no blood, they don't get hurt at all, but it's like 10 minutes of constant, really good fighting. Which is more, what was my word? I said unnecessary, over the top. What was the word I used a second ago? Excessive. There you go. What's more excessive? If it's shorter but more graphic, or longer, less graphic, but there's more of it. Which is more excessive in your opinion?
Shorter and more graphic. Obviously.
Why?
Because it's more relatable, and like I said, I got a lot of empathy for, like I said, definitely for animals, but also for people in certain situations. My dad was a paramedic, an EMT for 36 years. And he's got PTSD from the things he's seen. And I've only seen a few things like on, videos or whatever. And some of those really bother me and still kind of haunt me. So I can't imagine what he's seen. So when I see something that's more realistic and makes me kind of go, just seeing somebody's, like you mentioned earlier, somebody's leg get broken and bent in half the wrong way really bugs me. Because it's something that's realistic and plausible.
But it's not real. It's just a film. They're not real.
No, but somebody's head getting like ripped off in a graphic manner is sometimes like, oh, that's cool.
But they're not real, Stuart. It's just a film. Obviously. But now you can understand why. That's why we can understand each other, even though we feel different. Because it's the same thing with Holodecks. It's like it's not real.
But they're disintegrating. That's seeing somebody get disintegrated doesn't bother me at all. Even in Loud as a Whisper, where his trio gets like the skin, then the muscle, then the skeletons get vaporized, and it looks painful. It's like, that's cool. That wouldn't bother me, but yet being face to face with somebody, choking them out, or like stabbing somebody to death, close contact. Whereas if I'm across the room and I shoot them, you can disassociate yourself from it because they're not right in front of you.
Great, that last bit.
There's a lot to unpack there. So yeah. So most of the horror movie like deaths and stuff don't bother me so much because they are a little excessive and too over the top. It's the more realistic stuff that bothers me.
And people obviously I'll give my answer about the excessive. I find fights, I like the choreography normally, so it's not about either. Like, excessive is a relative term. If a fight is really good for 10 minutes, it's not excessive. If a fight is bad for 10 minutes, it's excessive. You know, even with Icheb's eye, I didn't think it was excessive. It was contextual. I didn't like it, but it wasn't excessive. Badger ripping a guy's head off is unnecessary, therefore excessive. If it's important to the moment, you cannot like it.
Just to show how crazy he was at that point, I think.
Yeah.
He was a real threat.
But he could have just stabbed them or shot. You know,
people always survive stab wounds in shows, though.
Yeah,
so
but I can imagine
head ripped off is a definite threat.
But for some reason, I would find it less graphic if Badgie literally like stepped through the guy and he's a knife, so stab and he falls down. Like that to me is less graphic than ripping a guy's head off. It's like that is, you know, I don't know why, for whatever reason. But like it wasn't in context. She wasn't killing people. Like she was killing her friend. Again, it's just those little lines. Like, don't tell us how real they are. That is a bad thing to tell us if you want us to feel. You know. I mean, either way, Mariner's a baddie in the episode. Either way, you can't get away from. She's not played well in the episode. But as we've said so many times before, it's the contrast. She's got to go dark for the light to make more sense. If she starts normal, if she's stunning everybody, and then she's like, "Wow, wow, all I needed was target practice to get better." You know, it's different. But like you said, if it just takes murdering her entire crew to really heal, okay, it was worth it. You know,
Shannon brings up a good point. The whole conspiracy with Remick being blown up. She had a nightmare of being chased by someone with Remick's skull face. That doesn't bother me at all. And that's somebody like exploding, and you see the inside of their chest cavity. But for some reason, like I said, a breaking leg or a leg being twisted off that's very realistic looking bugs me, because it's like I can feel that, even though, you know, but somebody exploding is like whatever.
And Remick was again in context. I mean, it was very graphic at the time, and it sounded like, wait, what? But he was the big bad that was threatening the entire Federation. The stakes were so high, and it was both of our two leads.
Well, he wasn't. He was an innocent victim. He was just, there was a parasite in his body that was the big baddie.
Yes, but
you got to feel bad for the guy that was taken over.
Yes.
And had no choice. So.
But similar to the Borg, he was totally taken over. Like, his entire chest cavity was destroyed. He ain't coming back. He is dead. You know, he is not alive. He is not in there. He is dead. So he's a zombie. You know, he's a walking dead. Not going to feel like, you know, would I be able to shoot my zombie friend in the brain point blank? Probably. It's a zombie. It sucks, but it isn't them, you know? You're
going to shoot your pre-zombie friend that got bitten, and you know who's going to turn into a zombie, or you're going to wait till he turns into a zombie?
No, wait. Give him every minute of life, unless he insists to be killed. You know, give him every moment to say what he has to say, you know? Otherwise, it's like, oh, my friend could die, you know, is dying of a disease. Let's kill him now so he doesn't have to live with the disease. Like, well, okay. Some people want that. Some people don't. You know, I would side on more life if you want it.
I'm glad you did leave me alive until I turned into a vamp or a zombie. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. You know, they will film an episode of the zombie, just film one, and then put you out of misery. You know, just say we did it. Another example of excessive was a Herodin episode, where in the episode they actually do break some of Janeway's ribs and shoot and almost kill Neelix and 7 of 9. Obviously, in the future, you can fix those things easily. But in the episode, again, it's portrayed as they were being excessive. That was real bullets, as in real fake bullets, really causing damage that had to be really fixed. And I think we were saying there were so many scars from all different wounds over the last few days. You know, they're really hurting these people. But obviously, they were the villains, so it's in context, and it is too graphic. That's the point.
Yeah. Yeah, as much as we think, oh, holodeck technology would be fun, you got to think of all the negatives that come out of it, and they highlight them, a lot of them. And yeah, I really didn't consider the whole Tuvok strangling Neelix thing, but that's pretty graphic considering it's face to face, and
he also picked Neelix. Didn't pick some random person he doesn't know.
Well, exactly. Well, Neelix was bugging him, like making him smile and shit. So
yeah,
at least in
And obviously, you can't argue that he didn't think it would help. Like, he must have thought of it as close enough to murder, or as what it wouldn't satisfy a bloodlust, you know? He obviously felt it was real enough to trick his body. You know? I wonder, though, did Neelix give consent? Because if obviously Neelix...
I don't think so.
Because if Neelix likes Tuvok a lot. He knows he's not, like, if Neelix says, obviously Neelix thinks, that's not really me, and this will save, because it was saving Tuvok's life, like, Ponfar not doing it can kill you, like, it's a bad thing. So if Neelix gave consent, then it's not a bad thing at all,
Well,
because it's like, I'm letting you hurt, not me, to make yourself feel better. I would think it'd be
exactly.
more harsh if it was a secret, because I'm actually killing you off knowledge. I would kind of insist on telling Neelix and getting permission.
So you're fine with it as long as people give consent.
Well, it changes the game, yeah. Then you're
So maybe in their Starfleet, application, there's a little checkbox. Do you give consent for your image to be used as a holodeck program for various?
I mean, it'd have to be,
purposes?
wouldn't it? It'd have to be for training protocols anyway.
Check. And you just signed away all your rights, so no matter what, you I can see something like that being in the Starfleet application, but
Yeah, but that's the loophole, not giving consent. You are giving consent, but that, by that logic, anyone saying anything, any piece of paper can,
funny actually.
Yeah.
I want to make up a Starfleet application now that has that. And it's going to be a whole bunch of fine print about the holodeck, and nobody reads it. They just check it because you could use my.
No, you are absolutely. That would absolutely be there, 100%. Because why
would have to be legally? It would have to be.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seriously. How many times do you think higher up officers aren't doing training protocol procedures with the crew, and they're using holographic crew? Absolutely. I mean, do you not think like Janeway or Picard did occasional holographic training simulations just to practice something? I mean, seriously, how many times do you think he even again, say Picard, went onto the holodeck to give a speech the first time? Test out his speech on a holographic crew and then go back and do it for real. I could see him doing that.
Yeah. And Paul Graham says, this is why I consider sci-fi educational. You can examine different tech.
Absolutely.
You can examine how society will treat things that allow you to look at what could happen and give you an idea on how to prevent it. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why these shows last longer than, say, Coronation Street, not Hawaii, but the soap operas that you sort of watch and then forget. These are that's why Star Trek also helps. These are important themes potentially. I had another example.
Trent Collicutt says, always read the terms of service.
Yes.
I never do.
I mean, you can't. You practically can't. Another small example.
Exactly. Sorry.
Another small example, though, obviously, these are just examples of hologrammatical things going too far. And then another good one where Barclay, good old Barclay, at it again. He feels so comfortable in the holodeck of Voyager that he sleeps there and gets a massage and plays with the crew and offers to help B'Elanna fix some stuff. I mean, and that is too far. It is excessive. And they tell him, it's like, dude, you doing this to and they always didn't give consent to be replicated, to be reconstructed. Well, obviously based on pre-season 1 then, etc. But it's like, yeah, it's not okay you're doing this. You can't make holograms of these people and work with them without their knowledge for years or whatever, even if it sort of helps. There are lines,
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, in that simulation, the Admiral shoots B'Elanna and her. He doesn't think twice. He doesn't know her though, so that's a little bit different. But we do see B'Elanna get shot. Although in the context, it's different. It's a real phaser shooting a holographic person, whereby it just holograms the hologram. Because the thing is, a hollow phaser is a hollow person. It acts like a real phaser and a real person. It can hurt them. A real phaser, hollow person, is energy disintegrating energy. It's different because it's there's no effect. It's the hologram program turning off, not I'm dying. It'd almost be better.
I see the differentiation you're trying to make there.
Yeah. Like if Mariner bought a real phaser and shot and they just then there is that context. Like it's not you can't feel a real phaser as a fake person because it's not how that works.
Yeah. They're de-resing as opposed to disintegrating.
Yeah. And that is a real distinction. It sort of sounds like it's not, but it legitimately is a distinction. It's a weird distinction, but it is.
And actually, Barclay using the Voyager crew is interesting because it's more disassociative behavior. It's still therapy in a way because...
Oh, God, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Unlike the people he works with on a day-to-day basis, he's shifted it to people he knows, has never met, but he knows them. And so it's a safe place with people he thinks he knows, but he doesn't actually know. So he can still disassociate himself from his real life. So his holotherapy addiction is actually an ongoing thing, which is really great. I love that because it can't be just cured right away.
Yeah. Well, the whole idea is he takes it too far. That's his entire theme. both good and bad, where he would rather spend a night in a fake place with fake people that to him feel real. It's not important if they're real, it's if they feel real to him. So Mariner, if she feels like I'm really killing them and having fun, that's the problem. Not killing fake people, it's enjoying killing fake people, enjoying torturing. That's that line. They're fake people, who cares? But if you want to kill them because you think of them as real people, or at least close to, that's that difference, you know?
Grayson People says Voyager season 4 episode 23 Living Witness, great episode by the way, the mirror universe of the Voyager. Big misuse of the holograms to tell history wrong, complete with an inaccurate evil Voyager. They even pronounced Chakotay's name wrong.
Oh, what do they call him? I can't recall.
I don't either, but I love that episode.
Yeah, it's I didn't include that though just because it wasn't Federation Holotech, it was aliens.
Yes. Yeah.
So none of those same moral
centuries later.
Well, I mean, that's Near Discovery, season 3. Actually,
Jesus.
probably is about that. But we talked about, as you brought in a second ago, the trial. I thought it was a really interesting example with Riker, 2 Rikers. Talk about that situation, because that's another way of holograms, holodeck, potentially going too far. I wouldn't have thought of that until I sort of found it. I was, let's do 12.
Well, that's the recreation of the murder scenario as evidence from different people's points of view, which I think is a great use of holotech, actually, to recreate a crime scene and visualize, because they do that anyway in courts these days for the jury. They visualize it with pictures and boards and pictures of the house and of the crime scene and bodies and all that. This would just be the next progression of that. Have the recreation based on the person's recollections, and walk through it with different perspectives, which I really think is anytime they do that is a fun time. How it's always different based on who's telling the story. But yeah, that's and it was actually the reactor that they created in the holodeck is actually reacting to the thing on the planet that's sending pulses out, because it's an exact recreation, which was starting to cause damage to the ship. Different parts of the ship, so it shows the problem with the holodeck is quite varied, and you wouldn't necessarily think that, but if it's an exact copy of something, and with the holodeck using replicator technology as well as transporter technology, there's so many opportunities for things to be real-ish. So yeah, I don't know if that's the point you specifically wanted me to talk about, but
yeah, pretty much. But also the idea of these people took this recreation based on logs and testimony as real. The chap was willing to, try him and sentence him based on a holographic recreation of a guess, or what people thought they remembered. Holograms, people, you think of them as that real. It's this tricky thing. It's dangerous. Because if these were fake people doing fake situation, even if they're real memories, because you see them that way, it has a little bit of extra,
And Joseph Petrick throws in €2.
Thank you.
Barclay's therapy doesn't include parental killing. I never said it did, but thank you.
Yeah.
And it's self-therapy, I think, because I think any therapist would try to get him away from the holodeck, but I think him using Voyager is his way of solving the problem, because he's not using the people he's working with currently. But he's still hiding in that holographic world.
Well, as with everything, he goes that one step too far. It's not about what he does, it's sort of that one step too far, Have any other examples of excessive? Well, future imperfect. These are just all examples of going too far, of tricking someone to think he's in the future. Just a little. Obviously it wasn't, but in the context of the story, it sort of was for a bit. I thought I'd throw it in there as a thing, and obviously then you got the Leah Brahms, which I actually forgot they kissed in the first episode. So Geordie thought enough of he thought this holographic person was real enough to kiss and be worth kissing, and then fall for her enough. So holograms, if you think of them as real, I mean, it's all about your intent. Either murder or kissing. And when was he abusing the hologram of Leah Brahms? Was he abusing Leah Brahms by kissing a hologram? Because it wasn't her.
That's the fine line. That's the argument, because it's basically the closest representation that somebody can get to her without being her. So would you feel offended if somebody was kissing you on a holodeck without your knowledge and then you found out about it later?
How attractive is the person?
More than kissing? What?
How attractive is the person?
It shouldn't matter.
Well, it should.
Yeah, I would say the same thing.
I mean, but well, it tells they've got innate attraction to me. If it's a supermodel, I'll be like, oh, right. And even if it's a really hot guy, I'm like, oh. I mean...
Well, it's a compliment either way, but that doesn't make it right.
That's why it's my first reaction.
If they're violating your body or whatever without your knowledge, it just doesn't seem like a fair trade now, does it? Unless you can all of a sudden, okay, fine, I'll have you on the holodeck later. I don't know. Just saying.
I just forgot they kissed. So I was kind of surprised in that. Oh, I think the computer didn't... I think the computer uses her engineering notes rather than her real, like, her personal notes. Otherwise, it would have not... I wouldn't have kissed otherwise. But although they didn't plan to be married in that scene, so they can also retcon that slightly.
And Joseph says, at least it worked out for Geordi. He married her and all good things. We don't know that for sure. He's married to someone named Leah.
Yes.
It's never confirmed that it's this Leah. That's up to your headcanon to say. And yeah, that's what a lot of people would go to. But I like to think a little bit pessimistically, and maybe it's just another Leah. I don't know. Just me.
Yeah, I could see that. But guys, I think we're just about at time. But we need another $24. This one's also been more of a debate rather than a let's get super chats. But if we can get $24, that would be really nice. How many likes do we need, Stuart?
13.
13.
And 94 people here, which is a lot less than normal. I think this is kind of a heavy discussion for a lot of people. Not as fun as we usually do. So, but if we can get another 13 likes, it would be great. If you haven't hit like yet, please hit like. Usually we have higher numbers for our viewers and stuff, but like I said, this is kind of
not too bad though.
Out of the realm of what we normally do. So,
but I mean, this is the thing with we talked about this for Echeb in Picard. I mean, we do just because we like the show doesn't mean we're going to call out the good and the bad. You know, it doesn't matter which show it is because that is why we're fair. You know, we're not just gonna, give them praise if they don't earn it, etc. It's called being fair and being rational, and this is my gut reaction watching it. Not so much second time round, but
And Shannon Nash throws in $5.
Thank you.
It's a hollow Leah uploaded into a synth body. Yeah, he made sure to assassinate the husband, but Leah was in the car at the same time, so he killed her too. So he just uploaded the holographic Leah into a synth body. Yep, that's the story you don't know about.
That's
no one does. Geordi, he reprogrammed Data to help him cover it up too. So,
and maybe he even brought back Law so that he could then have Data in two places at once to confuse everyone. Very confusing.
And Trent Cullicut, maybe he married the Hololeia. Well, it is the future, and yes, progression of holographic rights and technologies absolutely could definitely be a thing.
Well, I mean, the EMH was back at that point, so Voyager had hard light hologram technology. Sorry, Red Dwarf reference. So I mean, hey, that's definitely too far. Although I guess if real Leah consented to let you marry a holographic Leah, like that, you'd have to get consent, which obviously no one would ever give. But you couldn't obviously marry a. I mean, not okay. Another tangent though. But so the Doctor Joe married a lady in Endgame, but there's hundreds of. Okay, I think they were retired, but at that point there were still EMH Mark 1s running around. They obviously aren't the same, but what's the... I wonder if they ever met any more EMH Mark 1s. Like, introduce you to my brother, EMH Mark 1, EMH Mark 1, EMH Mark 2! Andy! Hey! Mark 3! Stop sneering, Bashir. Jesus. My brothers! God, what would a reunion be like? Like 4 Mark 1s, 3 Mark 2s, and 2 Mark 3s. That'd be great.
It would definitely mark the occasion.
Yeah. They should just do an audiobook just with all 3 mages in a scenario together. Because you could do that. They all still are alive. And they wouldn't age. That'd be great, though. You have to obviously evolve the Mark 3. But to be an actual character. But that'd be cool.
Mm. Well, another $17 would be great. If we can't, we can't. It's fine. But another 6 likes. Who wants the last super chat slot? Right now, it's Shannon Nash. If you guys have anything else to contribute to the conversation, any holodeck things we missed, or holographic dilemmas that you think we should talk about, by all means,
well,
feel free to.
You mentioned Fairhaven as a scenario. If you want to bring up that briefly. Well, again, $17, guys, not very much.
Well, with Fairhaven, they left the program running too long and started making changes to the point where the Fairhaven characters thought they were fairy folk. They were witches, and got a little bit dangerous for the crew at one point, being held in the holodeck, and even the holograms becoming self-aware, to the point where they got pulled into the diagnostic program, and he faked not knowing what was going on to kind of get out of the situation. So holodeck technology is dangerous, man. Just saying. There's so much that could go wrong. This is a really fun discussion. I really like talking about holodecks and all that kind of stuff.
Well, their technology is so incredible. I mean, they are really. You talk about bending space to faster light travel, but I think arguably holodecks are more advanced because beyond the obvious, it's a transporter, a replicator, a sound system, an aircon unit, all these things put together to seamlessly create a universe, ostensibly a universe, with unlimited potential. And since you can turn off safety protocols, you can also go even further. It's absurd. We've again, there's a really phenomenal episode on the Holodecks which will come out whenever the Canadian side of the group. But there's a tremendous piece in that about the real holodeck food versus fake holodeck food, because walking to holodeck and eating a meal, it'd be somewhat, I would get disappointed if you walk out. Say you spend 8 days in a holodeck, 8 hours in a holodeck, you eat 3 meals, you walk out, oh my god, I'm starving because you haven't eaten in 8 hours. Wouldn't that just really mess up your day? But then you don't eat all the real food because you got to put on calories, etc., etc. So it's really it's all in the episode, guys. It's absolutely amazing. But just what it can and can't do and how you can modify it to do and not do is really, really interesting. And throw in some information there if you want.
Well, that's why I mentioned earlier using a replicator technology and transport technology, because it's essentially a large replicator. So if you want to have an actual meal, like a 3-course meal or whatever on the holodeck, you would eat that. It would be the same food you get out of the replicator in your quarters. And then when you leave the holodeck, it's not going to instantly disappear from your stomach. You could probably program it to do just that if you really wanted to. If you wanted to gorge out on some really unhealthy junk food or whatever and didn't want the side effects or the bad influence of that, you could have it so that once you leave the holodeck, it was just fake food. I don't know how they would replicate taste necessarily.
Well, things you can, as you know, especially in DS9, they put their plates back in the replica and they dematerialize. You can unreplicate matter. That's more dangerous because it's inside your stomach with other. But if you can beam yourself, they've got. But obviously that's in a specific beacon side site. So I guess they've got precise enough sensors to do that.
Well, that's the joke with the shuttles and stuff that don't have washrooms. Like, how do you go to the washroom on a multi-day trip? You just beam it right out of your bowels into space. Skip the middleman.
That is certainly sci-fi.
Damn right.
But it should just be a setting. Either this food is real or the food is fake. Tendi had blood in her, walked out, it was gone. So she still felt it, but it was fake. It's all fake, but it's really, really fake. Whereas the snowball that was fired at Wesley is it was a real snowball, even though it was a fake. The real snowball.
It's made of water, yeah.
Yeah, because it turned on
replicated snow.
Real pieces for some whatever reason.
Yep. Happiest Gnome says we need a petition for a longer second season. Well, guess what? You're in luck because the season 2 of Holodecks is 12 episodes, not 10. So there you go. 2 more episodes.
Thank you, great koala in the sky.
Oh, good God. Joseph Petrick, $2 or €2.
Thank you.
Did you cover the Killing Game or Revulsion? Revulsion.
Well, Killing Game is the one with the Nazis. Which one's Revulsion? I can't remember.
That might be the one with the Cardass. No, is it the one with the Cardassian doctor?
Maybe that would make sense. Nope, that was with a tremendous guest actor. They go to a ship. There's one holographic character remaining, and he kills a crew. He tries to kill B'Elanna. He puts his hand in her stomach and squeezes, and the doctor has to kill him in the end. Yes. Great horror episode. Great actor. But there also wasn't Federation tech, so I didn't include it just because other races could do whatever they want. But yeah, that I remember watching first run, which is like I was young at that point, and it was not a fun watch.
And Ace 2000 puts in $2 and says, "Great channel, Captain and Commander." Well, thank you.
So being a fan,
pride ourselves. And that being said, it's been 6 years almost for Trekyards. It'll be 6 years on the 14th of October. So we've been doing this for a while now. We've built up a great community, and we'd like to think that we've contributed somewhat to the world of Star Trek, at least in discussion, opened up minds and created new dialogues.
And been a balanced portal for the controversial many years of Star Trek. About the channels that prioritize their dislike, and those that will always prioritize the positive without talking about the negative. Somehow those channels are much bigger, and they capitalize on both sides of the fence. We'd find neither worthwhile. We would rather be fair, balanced, and call out both good and bad. And by doing so, we still get into with Mike McMahon. So somewhere down the line, that has garnered us respect. And I would rather have respect than either be paid by CBS or be hated by CBS and have 10 times our income. The money's not worth it, and the lack of respect is not worth it. Not that I'm saying those that just praise it lose respect, but I mean, you can certain channels you can throw it as being, they're just going to like it either way, which is like, well, it doesn't tell me anything then, does it?
And 103 people watching, 97 likes. We need 3 more likes to get to 100. Let's get to 100 before we close out.
$10 more. 10! So close.
And $10 more. Yes, BJ Vincent throws in $2. The Purge movie as a holodeck program. Yeah. So right now, BJ Vincent has the last super chat slot, which is great. If anybody wants to scoop it out from under him, like I said, another $10, like 2 5s, a couple, 5 2s, whatever, would be great. And just make this discussion really kind of worth it. So not that it isn't already. I mean, just talking about it's great. So,
but it's always kind of a minimum level we want to go to, so we know. Although just to...
And Joseph Petrick makes a good point. It angers me how criminally undersubbed this channel is. I totally agree with you. Don't get me started on that.
I will not. But let's jump back to a second then of as we wait for his last $10. Would I kill people on the holodeck? Well, they're not people. That's the first answer to the question. If they're non-playable characters, and it's a game, that line. If I was doing it, I would probably turn off like screaming and pain. So turn that off straight away.
It's like settings on a game. You can turn off the blood or the extra gore. Yeah.
I mean, a phaser is a bloodless weapon by default. So a phaser is better than a pistol. But I'd probably turn off blood. I'd turn off screaming and pain. I would make them, not have faces, as in like wear armor or something. So they are just, who cares? So a few small things, and I would be fine to kill people on holodecks. They're not people, but I wouldn't want to massacre the people in my old school. Even people I hated. I don't think I'd want to do that. Punch them, maybe. I go as far as like, let's fight. I'm not a punchy person. You know what I mean? But maybe, I guess, punch somebody I really hated. I don't know.
And Paul Graham, speaking of badness, did Moriarty and the Countess die when the Enterprise D went down? No. They were probably handed off to a star-based facility or somewhere, even the Daystrom Institute, to be studied or something, and be kept safe. So I would say no. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, the ship did have power still. I mean, it wasn't doing well, but they did recover most of the stuff. And I would be surprised if the computer core... I mean, the computer core is in the heart of the ship. Like, if a ship crashes like the black box, you need the computer to be alive to get the records off what happened. So if it's in the computer core, I would assume those things are the most protected thing in the ship, at the very least. So no, I would even if it doesn't power, I think it'd be fine. Maybe it didn't. Well, that's the thing. They weren't in the computer. They were in a little box.
They were in the little.
Yeah. Ooh, and that its own power source. So as long as it didn't break. But I mean, a crash into the ground at 5,000 miles an hour. That's not that harsh.
I think it would have been handed over to somebody else long before that.
Also true.
They wouldn't be expected to babysit it the whole time.
That was that's how they got in trouble in the first place. They forgot about him.
Yeah.
First chance, hand off to Starbase. That's a great question. I've never thought about that. Great question. $7 more, guys. 7.
Well, Jeff Jacobs throws in $2.02, counting the dislikes tonight. So yeah, 100 hashtag make Jeff pay, or made Jeff pay, I guess. 104 likes with 105 people here. That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you haven't hit like yet, just hit like though. I'd like to get it up as high as we can before we have to leave. And yeah, another $7 would be great. But Jeff has the last super chat slot now. He's a moderator, so if anybody else wants to scoop it just for fun, please feel free. But we're going to be wrapping it up soon. We don't want to drag it out too long.
No. Although it's nice to hang out and talk and look at the chat because we're quite focused. And yeah, we do want Mike McMahon back on the show. I'm sure he now feels re-stressed about working on season 2 because there's a sort of exuberance of I can talk about season 1 and release it. Now he's like, damn it, I gotta make season 2. Because you can imagine CBS is like, Mike, how quick can you make the show? He's like, 7 months. Yeah, you got 4.5. Because this is the only way
he
they're
multiplies his estimates by a factor of 4, so he's good. He's good.
1.5 months. No, I can definitely see Holodecks being out by next summer, because the fact and Bigger Shoulder, because the fact is CBS All Access, which is now Paramount Plus, I think they've now changed it officially. They need monthly money. That's how you survive in a world where you can't make movies. And if you can get 10 million or 1 million at 1 million people at £7, 7 million in, and the show is not that expensive to make. I'm sorry, it's not like no one knows. I'm sure Patrick Stewart's check cost more than Mike and the entire cast salary, mostly because they cast smaller unknown people only in one. Even like the Doctor, she might have been a known actress if she was, but she's only in a few episodes. And audio especially, you can record an entire season of lines in one day. I mean, think about it, the Captain, right? Known actress, not many lines. You can probably record those in a day or two without too much stress. So very, very low budget relative show. So yeah, for next year, guys, and as soon as possible would be good. I want to see it.
Super Batazar, you should really ask Mike McMahon to get on the show. Please do it. It would be great to see you on Canon. Great to have you finally canonized. I would love to be in the background of Lower Decks. Just standing on myself walking down a corridor. That's it. Doesn't have to be anything, but clearly us.
Although we should be holding the Enterprise Connie, just looking at, pointing at it, talking, just walk past camera. We're the ship guys. Even Lower Decks we had a ship.
Yeah. Sebastian, €2. It was fine. Don't be so squeamish.
Calling out the good and the bad. Gotta be honest.
And Ace, $2,005. Picard season 2, Wrath of Moriarty.
Oh,
that'd be great.
That'd be good actually. Hey, he's a synth,
Yeah, you forgot about me, but yeah, that'd translate really well into a season actually.
Yeah,
considering they're both synthetic.
There we go, guys. 105 and 101. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much. We will obviously join you later on this week for predictions, then first reaction for the season finale, and then full review of the season finale, and then we'll watch all of season 1 again, and then drunk live retrospective, and then maybe take a break to get ourselves back in brain think, and then anniversary, probably a drunk as well. And then that'll be a great way of let's relive some good stuff. And we have done some stuff the last year, since 5 years. Less than we had planned, obviously. But when we do get to go out there again, we definitely come out in a storm.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much. We hit both of our goals tonight, and it was a fantastic discussion. Hopefully, if you're watching this after the fact and it's not live, put your comments down below what you think about these things. Please make sure you listen to everything we say instead of trying to correct us, or just if you start halfway through, go listen to the beginning because we usually probably covered it. Until next time, I'm Commander Cockings.
I'm Catafoli. You didn't know where you were going with that, did you?
Nope.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.